Moving now to the French Baroque and to an artist whose work you have on page 84 in your textbook, Georges Delatour. And Delatour's Lamentation over St. Sebastian. This is figure 13.8 on page 84 in your textbooks. Lamentation over St. Sebastian. Lamentation is a fancy word that means crying or weeping. It's a story that comes out of the early church when Christianity was an illegal religion. Sebastian, one of the early martyrs in the church, according to tradition, he's he's captured by some Roman soldiers and then tied to a tree and shot with a bunch of arrows until he dies. I think in the tradition it's 99 arrows, certainly a lot of arrows. Delatour is popular with a certain personality type who are attracted to the quietness, the tranquility, the understated emotion and understated violence. I think I used that phrase in the caption there. The understated emotion and violence here. It is a violent image. You do have a dead body at the bottom of the painting. But you only see one arrow. That arrow casts a shadow, and if you bisect that angle, you have a little trickle of blood there, but it's certainly not gushing all over the place like Gentileschi's Judith and Holofernes. You wouldn't describe these women as unemotional, as they are crying over their dead friend, but they aren't hysterical and weeping loudly and that kind of thing, but just very quietly mourning their dead friend. You have understated violence and understated emotion. I've got some other examples of Delatour's work to show you here that you don't have in your textbook. The Repentant Magdalene, Mary Magdalene, a figure from the Gospels. According to tradition, although not according to the Gospels, she's a prostitute who meets Jesus, gets cleaned up off the streets and that kind of thing. She has here in her lap a skull. That's a common memento mori in the Baroque era, a reminder of death. She's looking off into a mirror, thinking about the errors of her past and so on, but she's not beating up on herself, but just quietly, tranquilly meditating and thinking about things. And another take on the same subject from later in Delatour's career, later in his life, again titled The Repentant Magdalene. It's difficult to see, but she's looking at an hourglass in a case and watching life go by, time go by. She has her hands resting on a skull here. We wouldn't describe Mary as unemotional, but just very quietly, peacefully, just thinking, and you have that kind of understated emotion. You also notice here the chiaroscuro, typical of Delatour's work. You see it here, and in the earlier take on the Repentant Magdalene, and also in the Lamentation over St. Sebastian, the extremes of light and dark that are so common in the Baroque period.